taking you, all right, so that got up to doing podcasts. Okay, so part of the how-to book thing is like, how do you get started? How do you get into this and self-publishing and all that, and get a traditional thing. And even if you get a traditional publishing deal, unless you are a A-list celebrity or literally a New York Times top seller, they don't do really much to promote your book, and they don't do anything for you to promote it, okay? If you're an A-lister, yeah, they'll fly you all over and pay your fees, and all those expenses do come out of the back end, by the way. But if you're like us, you're on your own. And even if you get a traditional deal, and they might get 10,000 books out there, but of which you get a little piece of it, not a big piece. Any promotion, it's up to you. So, you know, everything I read, and I've read dozens of books on how to do this, dozens of books. And I think I cite them in my how-to book, in as references. Everyone says you got to go social media. You have to do social media. That's the only way you can get ahead as a self-published guy. I didn't even know how to spell social media when I started this. I mean, what? You know, I'm an old dude. I mean, when I started in the military, we didn't have computers, you know? And so I got with a consultant, learned a little bit about it, and I still don't really have a handle on the social media, but I do have a handle on YouTube. And it's been said that YouTube is kind of replacing websites, because you don't really need a website so much anymore, but if you have a YouTube channel, that's where people go, and it's visual, and you can see it, and you can comment, and you know, it's more interactive, and it's more popular. And with a filmmaking background as an undergrad, I didn't really do anything with filmmaking my whole life. I just went about my military career and did what I did. But I had the fundamentals down so that I knew the basics of lighting, composition, and a little bit of editing. So, but again, I hadn't done it for 40 years. So the YouTube thing to me was kind of natural. And I was doing podcasts, you know, because just like other veteran groups, kind of like speaking engagements like this, I do a bunch of them. So veteran podcasts, usually centered around veteran stuff or writing stuff. And then I got in the habit of, I got a Zoom account and I started recording this stuff. And then I took it a step further and I started making books from the podcast. And that's where stuff like this came out. This came out of a podcast I did with, he's a CPO, Chief Petty Officer, Navy, retired, and he was a Purple Heart recipient. And he runs the PTSD Foundation of California. And so he has a podcast called Vet Vision, Combat Vet Vision. Yeah, Combat Vet Vision. And Aaron Siebert, wonderful man. You can go on YouTube, he's done hundreds of these podcasts. And he's starting to get a following. So I did his podcast, one of the best interviewers I ever been interviewed by. And I captured it and put it in a book. I said, you know, this is so powerful and so many people are going to watch this video. I want more people to have access to it. And because he and I, you know, we talked about like PTSD and how to deal with it and how to transition from a military guy to a civilian. And that's kind of what the book about. It's a short read. It's only I think it's only about $10 on Amazon. It's, you know, it's not too expensive, but it's for veterans, you know, by veterans. So I did a couple of these books, and that's how I got into the self-help books. And then let me see if, yeah, the military school, that's another self-help book, but it's more for like youth trying to make decisions on whether they want to go to the military, to the civilian, you know, vocational school, whatever. So what I've done is made videos from all these books. And, you know, a lot of them are different interview stuff. So yeah, I wanted to show you this is another self-help book. This just came out on March 30th. And then that was based on another interview I did with a PhD candidate, and that one, I think you saw the lady interviewing me. This is based off of that. So, you know, it's another way of creating product. Okay, The big books, you know, they take time to do, but what I read in my research is like the successful authors between big projects do little projects that are easier to crank out, like these self-help books or podcast books. You can make them very quickly. You put them out, because what that does, from a marketing perspective, it keeps you out there. What's he bringing out next? You know, like these guys, I'll tell you, they're probably sick of my emails, because I got an email every month or twice a month with something coming out, either a video or a book or something, a lecture. I always got something going on, but it didn't happen overnight, and it just progressed. So now it's kind of crazy. But the social media, how I started that. Again, I didn't know anything about social media. So what I did was, you know, I wasn't a wealthy guy, but I saved my pennies, and for my first YouTube video, what I did, and I already had about 14 or so books, 15 books, I hired a production company, okay? And it was through a friend who they had videotaped their wedding, and I could tell these guys were pros. They knew what they're doing. They had the Steadicam and all this lighting. They were good. So I had a connection with the company. So I think they gave me a good break on the price. But I hired a production company to do a full-blown Hollywood kind of video about me talking about my books. And that was my first video. So it's professionally made, professionally edited, sound, all that. So that was my first exposure to YouTube. And that was my most views, thousands of views on that video. It's just a well-made video. And I found that the people out there, they tend to gravitate to the longer videos, because they find out more about your personality, and you know, it's instead of the quick, they want to get to know you. And that's how I started it. So I got off to a good start with a professional production crew. And I did have to pay some money for that. But you know, sometimes you get what you pay for, and in that case I was very happy. So what I did was, and this was a tip I read somewhere, that, but I mean, I kind of did it on my own, and then I read about other people doing it. So I had this big 20-minute video, and I was talking about each of the books in the video, like 15 different books. Well, what I did was that gave me 15 segments that I could chop up. So I got like triple mileage out of the one production shoot. And it's at the point now with that company, they don't even want to take my call anymore, because I'm always asking for stuff, you know. And so from that one video, I have probably 20 videos, you know. So what I did was, I mapped out the whole year. I got a spreadsheet, and I base it on historical dates, like today's Armed Forces Day. I got a video coming out on VE Day. I got a video coming out on D-Day. Of course, on the 4th of July, there's one coming out. Veterans Day, I always have something coming out, and or a book release on those key dates. So that's kind of how I've developed all these videos and stuff. So now I got my little, you know, sound thing and camera, and I figured out how to do it on my own. And I do my editing, I just do all that stuff. I just all self-taught. And the thing about YouTube's cool, you can learn about anything on YouTube. They have videos on doing anything, from changing the oil in your car to fixing your refrigerator, or, you know, doing YouTube videos. I mean, they're out there. And then one of my lectures I had, they were asking me, how do I do this video thing, this YouTube stuff? And I said, I'm actually writing a book for writers on how to do a YouTube video for writers. But I haven't gotten it finished yet, but it's one of my, in the hopper projects, so.